So I've been thinking about this whole NES Classic Mini System. If you haven't heard, there's a new version, I guess you could say, of the NES console that's coming out. It only has 30 games on it, most likely just emulated software. And it has controller ports that also work with the Wii U, but the controllers are basically they're NES controllers. So this is kind of similar to those throwback consoles that came out, those like plug-and-play systems, but honestly it's a lot better in my opinion. I think hardware-wise the equipment is going to be much better. It's going to be better designed. It's not going to be as light, as plasticky, as flimsy. It'll basically resemble an NES. This brings up a lot of points that I wanted to kind of address. So for one, the games that are being optioned, it's a, for the most part, pretty good amount of games. The only thing that confuses me, and a lot of people have brought this up, why Super C, why not Contra? Not that Super C is a bad game, it's a great game, but why Super C and not Contra? I don't know. There may be some kind of legal aspect behind it, who knows? But Nintendo basically paired with a bunch of third parties, and they're coming out with a really good collection of games. Now, of course, there's not going to be games like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games, because let's face it, those games, the copyright and legal aspects behind that game would be like insane. As far as for them to get it. They did it once on the Wii, actually. They had on the Virtual Console the TMNT, the first game, the one that everybody hates, which I actually enjoy it. And that game got pulled. So I'm gonna bet that most likely it was like a limited time arrangement, and now that Nickelodeon owns Turtles, they probably don't want the brand affiliated with the old school Turtles as much, especially with newer games. At least that's what I think. Who knows, I could be wrong. But anyways, what's interesting to me about this is that there's a lot of possibility for the market now, and nobody's really talking about this, because the market for NES games, now that this is happening, is either going to do one of two things. One, it's either going to go insanely high, because people are going to start playing these games and they're going to be like, oh, I want to check out other games, and they're going to start going on YouTube and watching, all these YouTubers and people like me who are reviewing games, and people are like, oh, that's not on this system, I want to go get that game. And then they go out and they buy a classic NES, and then they buy all these games and they spend a fortune, and the price just goes up and up and up. So that's worst case scenario. Now, here's the thing, I don't care about the price going up. I really don't care. I mean, yeah, it sucks, but I feel bad for new collectors trying to get into it. New gamers or little kids, younger kids, like kids when I was young. I had NES, and I'm wondering what the implications are going to be for them, because try explaining to your kid, if he's like, 10, 11, 9, 8, whatever, try to explain to them, no, I'm not buying you a copy of Metal Storm for $120. Like, I mean, average kids aren't going to be into that stuff anyways, but it's interesting to note that the prices really could go either way. Now, here's the thing, if I was a new collector, like brand spanking new, I didn't have any NES games and I wanted to check it out, or even if I was like one of those people that maybe played it when they were young and they kind of lost touch with it, and then like years and years later, they're, nowadays they're like, oh, I remember NES. And so what those people are doing is they're going to game stores, like retro game stores, and they're buying up NES games, and they're buying up systems, and they're buying stuff, not necessarily to collect it, but to play it, because they have fond memories of it. And the price does not matter to those people, because they want those memories. And I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I was in a game store, and this was a game store that notoriously gouged prices. I was just looking around, and I wasn't really interested in anything they had. But they had a copy of Dragon Warrior 3, I believe, and this guy came in and he was like, oh man, like I remember that game. Like I played that game when I was young. That game was awesome. And he was like, how much is it? And they were selling it for like way more than it was worth, and the guy just bought it. He didn't care, and that's not every average gamer, or even every average consumer, but it's worth noting that this guy felt so passionate about the nostalgia for this game that he went and dropped, you know, $40 for an NES, and then I think the game was like, don't quote me on this, but probably like 40, 50 bucks. Like, whatever the price was back then, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was almost triple that, like double or triple that. And so, you know, people who don't care about the market, they just go in, they buy it, whatever, they could care less. But to me, you know, somebody like me, I want to get the games at closer to a bargain, or I want to save off of retail, because I've always done that. I've always bought games, you know, cheaper back in the day when I started collecting, you know, years and years ago. So my point being is, let's say I'm a new collector, I'm a new person trying to get into this hobby, or trying to get back into it for nostalgia purposes. I'm gonna look at that $60 system and be like, it's 60 bucks. I could buy an extra controller for like 12 bucks or 10 bucks or whatever the cost is, which, by the way, I'm getting one of those controllers, because Mega Man 9 with an NES controller, whew, goodness, that's gonna be awesome. And a lot of people are gonna jump on, they're gonna be like, well, you could buy, you know, they have controllers, adapters that you could buy. Yeah, but it's not made by Nintendo. So, you know, that's my only gripe. Anyways, back to the point. Those people are gonna see that system and they're gonna be like, 60 bucks? Like, for the games, it's $2 a game. And if they look up the price of one of those games, I bet one or two of those games, let's say Super C, for example. Super C is going for about, what, 25, 30 bucks, something like that now? Could be more, I don't know. But for double that, they get 29 more games. That's like a no-brainer. I mean, you know, for people that don't care about collecting, it's a no-brainer. So there is a possibility that this is going to drive the market down. And that would be incredible, because then people would start wanting to collect the classics more. Now, I say that, but at the same time, when you look at Virtual Console currently, there's a lot of games that are worth quite a bit on Virtual Console that are worth quite a bit on like the physical realm, and you know, those games really haven't changed in price. If anything, they've gone up because people want the real physical cards. So I'm interested in hearing what everyone has to think about this. I'm curious what you guys think. Is it going to drive up prices? Is it going to bring prices down? Is it going to make it more consumer friendly? Is it going to bring more awareness to Nintendo or to the retro game scene? Leave your comments below, or leave a video response below, and let me know what you think. I'm going to go edit. See you later.